The release might have been very fake, but the guitar is very real. Welcome back to the 11th Fret, everybody. My name is Chris. Thank you guys so much for coming on back. If you watched the April Fool's video, you might have seen this guitar, and you might have heard me say that this is the slick SL84FR. And if you didn't make it to the end, you might believe that it does exist. Well, I mean, it does, technically. I mean, here it is. This is the guitar. It's not CG. I don't have the budget for CG to do something like this. It is a guitar that has been made. But today what we're going to do is dive into the process of creating this fictitious guitar. So we're going to have a look at what we did to modify it and see if there's a way that maybe Slick can create it themselves, or if you really want to do it yourself, now you'll have the know-how. All right, so we got it on the workbench right now, and I think we need to take a look at what we did on this guy here. So as you can see that we got a locking nut on here, and we go all the way down. This humbucker was added, and this Floyd Rose system was added as well, and including this three-way toggle switch. So the SL54T is just your classic fulcrum tremolo with 6 screws. It's pretty straightforward, just one single humbucker, one volume knob, and that is the whole ordeal. And when I got the SL54, the black one, I fell in love with the idea of having this become a super strat. And I started seeing other guitars out there on the market, like the Friedman Cali, for example, and I think even Charvel. They released some guitars that were kind of like what I was creating here, what I was going for. And I wanted to be able to create that. And I suggested this to Guitar Fetish a long time ago, and they shot it down with love, of course, because they know who they're dealing with. Earl Slick is a very meat and potatoes kind of guitar player, and that's pretty much it. Like, he's just like garage rock epitomized. But he's not a heavy metal player. He's never really been a heavy metal player. He's not known for playing Floyd Rose systems. So yeah, so it was shot down. But I don't like taking no as an answer. So I had to get a little creative. So I reached out to a friend of mine who is a world-class luthier, and everybody who's watching this channel knows who he is. But he asked not to be named, so like I said in the previous video, I will respect that and not name him. But if you found out who it was, you'd be, kind of pooping in your pants a little bit. It was a big deal for me. So yeah, he helped me out. I mean, I could have done this on my own. I wanted to do this on my own, but I was so afraid I was going to screw it up. And I don't have the budget on this channel to screw up a guitar. And I don't have the deep knowledge where I've done this 1,000 times to be that confident in my abilities. So I reached out to him, and he was really receptive to helping me out. And yeah, it was a little tricky. So we got to work. We did some measurements. He's done this many times before. And pardon the plane noise going overhead if you can hear that. I'm just doing this in the middle of the day, broad daylight. But yeah, so anyway, we got to work, and we had to make this function. So I ordered a Floyd Rose system separately from Guitar Fetish. I wanted to make sure that whatever I was doing was going to be on brand. And we toyed with the idea of making this a floating Floyd Rose or doing a dive only. And I thought, I was going to do a floating at first. That was the idea. That's what I wanted to do. And I thought, I don't have any dive onlys. And I really wanted to be able to have the option down the road to maybe put something like a D tuna on here, so I could just at least throw it into drop D. And if you have a floating Floyd Rose that's not blocked, or that it doesn't have like a trem stabilizer or a stopper, a drop D, like D tuna, will not work. It'll pull the other 5 strings a little sharp. So yeah, you need to have a blocked trem to do a D tuna properly. That's kind of the Eddie Van Halen way as it is. So if we look in here, this Floyd Rose system is crazy. And we had a little bit of a little whoops here. That was my doing. But there's this really strange plate that this tremolo came with. And neither me or my friend had ever seen a Floyd Rose come with a plate like that. We thought it was some sort of like, I don't know, like a template to be able to put the posts in the right place. But we couldn't get these posts off of this plate. And it was very, very strange. So we drilled first, and then we put the plate in. And then we saw that this Floyd Rose had basically tunematic height. And it would need to be shimmed a lot on the neck to make the action tolerable. So we decided to, trace this out as best as we could, and drop that plate into the body. And that helped enormously. We still had to shim the neck. So there is a neck shim inside here. I don't know if we can see that or not. Yeah, there we go. Look at that. There's a shim. So yeah, we had to drop this in here carefully. And we also had this other issue because we had to make sure that we measured accordingly for intonation. But we had this little gap over here, which I tried to hide in my photos as best as I could. Now, where my friend helped me out was mostly just in routing. He helped route the Floyd Rose system, and then he helped route the neck humbucker. And then we drilled the passageway for the wiring to pass through. And then he also helped me install the locking nut. And that was also very, very tricky. And he was very upfront with the idea that because this has a tilt back headstock, we would probably have to build a shelf. And you can see that there's that black piece there. So there's a shelf underneath this locking nut after we routed it out. The way that the nut was, it was deep. It was too deep into the neck. I mean, it was just right for the height of the nut, but it was too deep for the locking nut. So yeah, we had to build that shelf, and I got it home and I painted it black to try and hide it as best as I could. And then I also still had to shim it on top of that just to get it, up just to the right height. Now, if you'll also notice that there was a truss rod cover on here, and you can kind of see, kind of like right over here. It's hard to see it. You might be able to see where I filled the truss rod cover hole and then painted it black. And I used the GFS conductive paint because I have a lot of it, and I figured that matte black conductive paint will blend really well with this. So I did. And that's exactly what I painted the shelf with too. It's that matte black conductive paint. And it works. And then, yeah, I did use the old school humbucker that GFS sells. So I bought this separately as well. So when I ordered the parts from GFS or from Guitar Fetish, I ordered the guitar, the SL54T, this Floyd Rose system, and then this neck humbucker. The humbuckers were already pretty pre-tattered. They came that way with a rust and the cut marks across it. Now, I didn't want to dirty the Floyd Rose up because, as I said in the previous video, the SL55, which I have yet to review, has polished parts on there too. So whenever Guitar Fetish decides to build a new slick for him, they might use parts like the GF Trons and stuff like that are going to be polished and shiny and new. And I thought, well, screw that. Let's just do that with the Floyd Rose as well. I installed the 3-way toggle switch, I drilled that out, and wired the whole thing up, got everything ready to go, set it up, intonated it, so you can see the saddles are in their proper position, and I intonated it against the Peterson Strobo 490 tuner, and yeah, that's like the standard setup tuner. So the other thing I had to change too is I had to put this new trem arm on here because this worked better for me for the sake of trying to keep the review mostly positive. I like this Floyd Rose system except for the trem arm that came with it, so I put this Schaller trem arm in instead, which came off of my Charvel. I upgraded that in the past, and then I just upgraded the Charvel one more time with a nicer trem arm that's popping, just to be able to migrate that trem arm onto this. And the reason why I did it is because this is the original trem arm that came with it, and it's threaded. So you can see on this guy right here, it just screws in, and I didn't like the way that sat. It was a little rattly. That's something, if I could make a suggestion to Guitar Fetish, please do not put this trem arm on this Floyd Rose system. It's almost perfect. It's great. It feels great. It dives nicely. Sounds awesome. But this trem arm sucks. So it's got to go. So let me go ahead and take this trem arm off so you can flip the guitar over. So onto the back side. Still have the protective film. So another non-standard part that I put on here is the trem stabilizer, and I got something that was pretty generic, and I have it pinned up against the brass block here, which is nice. This is a cool brass block that came with this Floyd Rose. And then there's a felt pad here to help dampen the 0 point. So yeah, got this all wired up. This is the ground wire right here, so if you're new to wiring up guitars, this is important. Otherwise, you're going to get some buzz. So yeah, we put the trem stopper in here, stabilized it just properly, adjusted the tension to hit that 0 point a little more snug, but not like totally floating. I'm going to change my screwdriver here. I don't know why I grabbed the number 1. Number 2 is the way to go. Number 2 Phillips. Now, I've never installed a trem stabilizer before, so if I did it wrong, let me know. It was a new trick for me. Seemed pretty straightforward. It came with no instructions whatsoever. So yeah, it's a real simple build. I mean, with the exception of the Floyd Rose, that's the trickiest part. I mean, you're going to have to be using a lot of painter's tape or masking tape as well as a lot of measurements. And if you're going to drop that mounting plate in there, that's that's tricky, because you're going to have to route very, very, very carefully. So first thing what you want to do is you want to figure out where those posts are supposed to go, and then you just line that plate up right there and trace around it carefully and just drop it in. And it's pretty straightforward. It's easy. So first what you'll do is you'll drill these holes. So a hole for that, a hole for that. Drop the plate all the way down, trace around it, and then just carefully route. Carefully route. I can't stress that enough. You've got to carefully route that out. And that's if you're going to use their Floyd Rose system, which I do like this plate. It adds a lot more stability, so I think it's gonna help reinforce those posts, which I think is a bonus. Now, the reason why this toggle switch is up and down is because there wasn't room. So if you look on the back here, if I took this cover off, you'd see that there was no way to put it in there sideways unless I were to create a wider control cavity, which I didn't want to do for the sake of this video. I'd had to create a new back plate, and I just didn't want to. I figured I'd leave it alone. We'll go up and down, and that works. It feels good. It looks good. It does the job. But yes, if I could have had it go more this way, more at an angle, I would have done that. It makes more sense to me. Outside of that, though, everything's the same. I kept the stock wiring. I kept the stock parts. As for the neck is, I believe this is a Jatoba as far as the fingerboard, and it looks great. It's a nice warm brown. As for the rest of this here, I mean, this is just so smooth to the touch. It feels great. And honestly, I do love this guitar. I can't stress that enough. This is a great guitar. I'm actually pretty excited that I was able to help build this with a friend. I've been thinking about building this since before I started the channel. It just made sense to me. And yeah, so what I'm going to do now is it's going to do a small tour. I think it's going to go hit up 1 or 2 other YouTube channels, and I'm excited about that. So if you did like this guitar and you want to see them produce this guitar, you know, granted, Guitar Fetish does offer other guitars with Floyd Roses, and most notably, they just released the Steve Brown sound line. So that's from Steve Brown from the band Trickster. And so he's got his own line of super strats and things like that. So with, you know, 2 humbuckers and a Floyd Rose, or a hum single and a Floyd Rose. And so you can kind of get that aesthetic through his line. But I like this automotive paint. This just makes a lot of sense to me. It feels great. But man, these pickups right here, these old schools, there's something about them. They're voiced beautifully, and I hate that I love them so much. So yeah, that's why I built this, and that's why I made it a slick instead of a Steve Brown sound. And that's that. I mean, that's how I put this guitar together. I don't know. Do you like it? Is this something that's worth slick building? You tell me. Let me know in the comments down below. And as always, if you like guitar-related videos like this, make sure you like this video and subscribe to the channel. And don't forget to hit that bell notification to be notified when I do upload new content. So until the next video, everybody, thank you guys so much for watching. And my apologies again if you got suckered in and pranked on April Fools. Take it easy, everybody.